In popularity corresponds with a $2.2 billion TV rights deal the WNBA signed for 2026 that covers the next 11 years, which ESPN reports will increase the league's annual revenue by about $200 million a season. Yet, WNBA players say they're not being paid what they're owed. Right now, they get less than 10% of the league's total revenue, a strikingly slim margin when compared to other pro sports leagues in which athletes typically split revenues about 50-50.
Let's be real. The WNBA just secured a jaw-dropping $2.2 billion media rights deal set to kick in by 2026. 11 years, hundreds of games, and a promise of nearly $200 million in revenue per season. On paper, it sounds like a golden ticket, the kind of payday that should finally transform women's basketball into a thriving powerhouse. But here's the catch: the players themselves? They're still pulling in less than 10% of league revenue. Compare that to the NBA, NFL, or MLB, where athletes split revenue right down the middle, 50-50ths. Suddenly, that shiny contract looks a whole lot less glamorous. And for the players, it feels like highway robbery. So, the question hanging over everything is simple. If the WNBA has all this new money coming in, why are players still acting like they're broke? Well, the answer takes us into the smoke and mirrors game the league has been playing for years.
In the past 6 months, all we have been hearing about is how the WNBA is having a record-breaking event after another, and yet not paying its players a fair salary. The simple answer is the league is just not making enough money, and it's basically just been trying to stay afloat all these years. Well, until the $2.2 billion media rights deal it signed with Disney, Amazon Prime, and NBC just a couple of months ago. And of course, the announcement of the 3 new teams that will be added to the league in the next few years. That will all flush the WNBA with much needed cash. This, of course, coincides with the collective bargaining agreement that will be negotiated after the 2025 season. CNBC dug into the nuances of the league's business model to really see how likely it is that the salaries will match up to the influx of the cash in the next few years.
For 6 straight months, the headlines have all sounded the same. Record-breaking crowds, historic ratings, sponsors lining up to get involved. The league has been painting a picture of unstoppable momentum, as if every night is a sellout and every game is appointment TV. But peel back the curtain, and you see a very different story. The WNBA has spent most of its life not thriving, but barely surviving. Revenues were flat, attendance was stagnant, and expansion was a distant dream. That is, until the NBA stepped in to negotiate that $2.2 billion lifeline. Disney, Amazon Prime, and NBC didn't exactly wake up one morning desperate to throw money at the WNBA. This wasn't organic demand. It was Adam Silver, NBA commissioner and ultimate power broker, making sure his league's little sister got a seat at the table. Networks wanted NBA rights, and the only way to get them was to also write a check for the WNBA. Like it or not, it was a forced bundle deal. And yet, in classic WNBA fashion, the league spins this as proof of its explosive growth. But if you follow the money trail, you'll see it's not growth at all. It's a bailout.
$1 billion media rights deal out there.
There's rumor of it?
Reporting about the next media rights deal.
Then if you, I'm not great with numbers, lowball.
Why do you say that?
That's a lowball. You're saying how much?
$2.2 billion over 11
Not
years.
enough. Not even close. Now, I'm not trying to inflate it a whole lot, but a 2's nice. An 8 would be better. That's what I'm talking about, because they know. They know. And we certainly have come a long way.
The players' demands came almost immediately. Higher salaries, better perks, charter flights, and, the crown jewel, a 50-50 revenue split just like the NBA. On the surface, that seems fair. After all, if NBA players can split revenue evenly with owners, why can't WNBA players? The problem is that the WNBA isn't profitable. It never has been. The league has operated at a loss every single year since its founding, and it's the NBA that covers those deficits. So when players say they deserve 50% of revenue, what they're actually asking for is half of a negative number. You can't split a pie that doesn't exist. And yet, politicians have jumped in to support them. The Democratic Women's Caucus sent letters demanding a fair collective bargaining agreement. acting as if WNBA players were coal miners being underpaid in dangerous conditions, rather than athletes in a league propped up by NBA subsidies. It's not oppression, it's economics. The WNBA is asking for money that isn't there. Caitlin Clark's arrival was supposed to be the moment everything changed. She was marketed as the savior of the league, a once-in-a-generation talent who could finally drag women's basketball into mainstream relevance. And at first, it worked. Games featuring Clark regularly pulled 2 million viewers, even hitting 1.8 million on CBS. Her Indiana Fever games dominated ESPN and ABC, drawing numbers the league hadn't seen in decades. In contrast, games without her, they cratered. Indiana games without Clark averaged 924,000 viewers, barely half of what her presence brought. The rest of the league without her hovered at a pathetic 500,000 viewers or less. Attendance told the same story. Indiana's road games became must-see events, with packed arenas and media frenzies. Meanwhile, other teams struggled to fill half their seats. And when Clark got injured, the illusion collapsed. Ratings dipped, excitement died down, and suddenly those record-breaking numbers the league had been bragging about didn't look so impressive anymore.
Revenue. Somebody wrote a joke about it. The WNBA wanted what their just pay was, and so they owe $400 million because that's really how it balances out. It's like a losing. It's never been profitable.
This is where things get shady. After Clark went down, the WNBA claimed viewership was still strong, that the league was more than just one player. But then something strange happened. For games on ESPN and ABC mysteriously had no ratings released. Did ESPN misplace the data? Did some intern accidentally delete it? Or was the reality too embarrassing to share? Because if those games had crushed expectations, you can bet ESPN would have been shouting the numbers from the rooftops. Instead, they buried them. This isn't new, either. ESPN has a history of quietly hiding ratings when shows flop. Just ask Pat McAfee. And now, it looks like the WNBA is playing the same game. The spin is relentless. Most watched season since 1998, they say? But back in 1998, TV audiences were massive compared to today. There was no Netflix, no TikTok, no YouTube. Bragging about being bigger than a 1998 baseline is like bragging about beating your high score in a video game you haven't played in 25 years. Impressive on the surface, meaningless in context. Yes, the WNBA averaged 969,000 viewers this season. Sounds great, until you realize that's about the same as a rerun of Shark Tank on CNBC. We're not talking NBA Finals numbers. We're talking mid-tier reality show levels. Meanwhile, the league parades around sellouts as proof of overwhelming demand. But look closer, and those sellouts often happen in 10,000-seat arenas, half the size of NBA venues. Even then, tickets are frequently discounted or given away for free just to fill seats. It's like bragging about selling out a concert when half the audience got in on a Groupon deal. The truth is simple. The league isn't exploding. It's inflating. And inflation doesn't last forever. Every league needs stars, but no healthy league depends entirely on one. The NFL thrives whether or not Patrick Mahomes is playing. The NBA survived Jordan's retirement and LeBron's eventual decline. Baseball, hockey, even soccer, the leagues stand taller than any one player. The WNBA? It's a circus tent held up by a single pole. Remove Caitlin Clark, and the whole thing collapses. Ratings nosedive. Attendance evaporates. Hype vanishes. That's not sustainability. That's desperation disguised as success. Here's the uncomfortable reality. The WNBA is a league that survives not on demand, but on subsidies and spin. The $2.2 billion TV deal? That wasn't earned. It was bundled. The record ratings? Carried almost entirely by one player. The sellout crowds? Half-price giveaways disguised as victories. Players are demanding more money, more perks, and NBA-level treatment. But the math just doesn't add up. They're trying to cash checks written on hype, not reality. And when the hype fades, the checks bounce. Caitlin Clark's injury didn't just sideline a star player. It exposed everything the league has been hiding. Without her, the WNBA is still the same league it's always been. Dependent, subsidized, and desperate for validation it hasn't earned. The WNBA doesn't have a money problem. It doesn't even have a ratings problem. It has a truth problem. As long as the league insists on inflating numbers, hiding failures, and pretending it's bigger than it is, the gap between fantasy and reality will only grow wider. And when that gap finally collapses, no amount of spin will save it. Because at the end of the day, the WNBA isn't powered by growth. It's powered by one player. And when the spotlight fades on Caitlin Clark, so does the league.